What's up, adventurers? Adventuring with Chris here, and welcome to South Carolina. More specifically, we are in North Augusta, South Carolina, at a park. Now, I drive by this park every day on the way to work, and I've heard so many stories about this obelisk that I'm about to tell you about in this park. And I also did a video on the bed and breakfast behind me, which was used in the Disney movie That Darn Cat, starring Christina Ricci. It was used exclusively, like a lot of the movie was shot right there. And the obelisk behind me is really bizarre in why it was put there and represents a very strange time in American history, a very dark time. Let's go adventuring. So, before and after the Civil War, slavery and chattel slavery was a big thing. And just because Lincoln passed the Emancipation didn't mean here in the South things stopped. And why this obelisk was put here is kind of messed up. And I'm glad the local historians have put these three historical placards here to tell the full story, because up until about 10 years ago, it was only one side of the story being told. So I'm going to start you here. So first of all, this area was called Hamburg. After the Civil War, a town became a place where free blacks and freed slaves could settle. Local government positions were held by African American leaders in Hamburg from the town. Most notable were Prince Rivers, Samuel Lee, and John Gardner. 1868 South Carolina elections produced the first black majority state legislator in American history. And then, of course, the South Carolina Constitution was drafted. Aiken County was formed in parts of Edgefield, Lexington, Barnwell, Orangeburg. It was the only county formed in South Carolina during the Reconstruction era. On March 10th, funny enough, that was 2 days ago, 1871 is Founders Day. But as usual, and as people tend to do here in the South, in the 1800s, the color of someone's skin makes them who they are back then, unfortunately, and not the character of who they are in their heart. Well, in 1876, stick with me, guys. A gun battle broke out between 200 men from a local rifle club and some of the blacks serving in the company, a 9th Regiment of the South Carolina National Guard, and others barricaded in a warehouse here in Hamburg. 7 blacks were killed, 4 of whom were executed. The African American casualties were First Lieutenant Allen Atway, Corporal John Parker, James Cook, David Phillips, Albert Minyard, Moses Parker, and Hampton Stevens. The sole white casualty was Thomas McKee Merriweather. Why is that important, you ask? Hang on. Stick with me. Well, the Hamburger Massacre was an historic achievement, an event, in nation's history. It became a key issue in the election of 1876 with Rutherford B. Hayes and Samuel J. Tilden. The Electoral College votes from South Carolina, Florida, and Louisiana were contested. Ultimately, a special congressional committee awarded the votes enough to swing the Electoral College to him. Known as the Compromise of 1877, this led to the removal of Northern soldiers from the South, allowing white Southerners to successfully deny black people their rights. The bargain between the Southern Democrats and the Republicans brought Reconstruction end of the Northern occupation of the South. So, you heard that right. This monument, we had one white person die in the Hamburg Massacre, and that was Thomas McKay Merriweather, one white person. But 4 black people were executed and 7 others killed. 11. Well, in 1914, the legislature passed a bill authorizing $400 for a headstone on the grave of Thomas Merriweather, here where I'm looking at now, in North Augusta. Local leaders chose the location because you could see it as you drove up the main roads, and they got the South Carolina legislature to pay for it, and it was dedicated in 1916. Inscriptions on the monument reflect attitudes during that period. Those do not represent the attitudes of the people of North Augusta today. We are a community of people, different races, ethnic backgrounds bonded together by unity and common rights of citizenship. We choose to learn from our past and ensure that North Augusta's future reflects that. The events and legacy of Hamburg do not define us. I love that they put this here. They put these placards here, what's this, 3 years ago. Now I'm going to read to you what they put. So if you haven't put 2 and 2 together yet, this obelisk behind me was placed here for the one white guy that died when 11 black people were killed in the late 1800s. because the story is about to get really, really dark and depressing, if you ask me. And this was starting to form Jim Crow South. And Jim Crow South, if you don't know your American history, is when basically the emancipation was passed, but there was many in the South who didn't care. They refused to change, and they were not going to let black people have equal rights and equal shares of being an American. And this massacre is a direct reflection of that. And the fact that they put up a monument for the one white guy that died just shows you how sickening at the time and deep this ran. Let's read the monument. And again, what I really like is the fact that they put these placards up to set things right. So it says December 4th, 1852 to July 8th, 1876, memory of Thomas McKay Merriweather, who on 8th of July gave his life that the civilization builded by his fathers might be preserved for the children's unimpaired. And there's his name. He's buried here underneath us. This memorial is erected to the young hero of the Hamburg riot by the state under an act of the General Assembly with the aid of admiring friends. Now, remind you, 11 black people died, 4 executed. And it says, in youth's God mourning the unfinished years of manhood, blah, blah, blah. Those civic and social institutions, this is just the centuries have established. What more can a man do than lay down his, wow. This part here is going to make you sick. He had life exemplified in the highest ideal of Anglo-Saxon civilization by his death. He assured that the children of his beloved land, the supremacy of that ideal as his flame of life was quenched in that light blaze of victory. So, yeah, I'm glad that South Carolina decided to put up these monuments here with the local help from the university and set the record straight, because all angles of history should be told, not just one. And we shouldn't, I know there's been a lot of talk of tearing down monuments and things. I think it's more important to not tear down a monument and to put up placards telling the whole story, not just one, and leave the monument up, but put other placards around to tell the full story, because there's always more than one side of the story. All right, so I'm going to take you guys to another couple spots here. Let's get going. Such a good shape, though. It's really neat. And you had to build things in the 1800s, especially here in the South. There's no air conditioning, so things had to be cool. And this is really cool over here, this podium. It's probably a bigger word for it than podium, but this was used to amplify sound so you can have a microphone. No electricity. You had to get creative. So if you walk up here to what used to be the altar, of course, this has been deconsecrated in the Catholic Church. And that means that basically that the Catholic Church no longer can switch over the body and blood. If you're Catholic, you know all about that. Daredevil fans know what I'm saying. But this is absolutely intense. They've just kept everything. And she said there were holes in the roofs in the 70s. The birds were in here pooping all over everything. The pipe organ was rusted, and as you can see now, they've restored it to like new. Color me surprised they've never filmed any movies in here. I feel like this would be a perfect spot to film a movie. Zoom in, she said. The choir loft there is where they had a pipe organ that is no longer, and it was rusted and destroyed. All right, so this next place I'm at right now is the Augusta Church of the Sacred Heart, and this hasn't been a church since the 70s, but this place is absolutely beautiful. As you can take a look here, it has been completely restored, and if you look here at the top, it just goes all the way to the top. And my father actually went to a church here. This hasn't been a church since the 70s. It was built in the late 1800s and opened in 1900. It took about 100 years to build. And they're actually using it now for an art show coming up this weekend. So I won't mess with the art stuff, but I'm just looking here, and this place is absolutely stunning. Really quiet and peaceful in here too. But everything's still here from when it was a Catholic church. They still have the Stations of the Cross. They still have the baptismal font thing there. Wow. This is absolutely, the stained glass is in really great shape. And the stairs that go up to the piano place are really, really neat. It's all the way up. Fun story, my partner and I, she and I came here many, many years ago in our Beauty and the Beast cosplays, and we did a cosplay photo shoot here when it was empty. But yeah, they just do not make churches like this anymore. If you ever see a church nowadays, it does not look anything like this. They have, what she was saying, they have weddings in here and things like that. Here's the organ pit, the top. Really neat. So while I'm here at this massive 2-century-old cathedral that used to be a Catholic church, I thought I'd take you guys around and show you the exterior of it. And again, this is in Augusta, Georgia. It's called the Sacred Heart Cultural Center. It's no longer a church, but she said people use it for all sorts of things. They've had movies filmed here. I'll let you guys in the comments go search and see if you found movies and TV shows have actually shot here. And the fact that it's not a Catholic church anymore makes it a little easier to access. So I'm going to walk around the front, and here's what the front of it looks like. Very typical Catholic church. I mean, look at that. It's insane, right? If you could see Daredevil like up there on the, that would be a great thing to film here, would be Daredevil. I mean, can you imagine? Like him up there on one of the rafters, getting ready to fight Kingpin? Frisk? Is that what we call him? So I'm going to go on the other side here to show you. We don't make stuff like this anymore. Hey, look, kitty. There's a cat over here. Let's see if I can get him to come over. Kitty, kitty, kitty. Hey, kitty, kitty. He looks friendly. Nope. He says, no, sir. I'm not friendly. So whenever doing these things, always ask, because you never know if people will let you go in and see stuff. Always knock on the door and ask. Check their business hours. Most times they're pretty neat and pretty generous about letting you in to see stuff. So anyways. All right, so we're going to be moving on to the next location here in the city of Augusta. And it's my last one, and then I'm going to kind of throw this video together as to some of the quirkier spots here in Augusta. Let's go to the next and last place. So here's the other side of the church. The cat wanted nothing to do with me. And again, as you can see, it's huge. Beautiful clear day here too. I had to memorize the parts of this for one of my college classes I took. My dad went to church and school here, I believe, back in the 50s. And this is probably where the priests lived, or the kids went to school. I can see here all these buildings, these outbuildings likely are where the nuns or the priests live. The American Red Cross is using it now. You'll always hear me say this whenever I do these videos. They just don't build it like this anymore. And she said that one of the caretakers said that had it not been for some people, some wealthy people, this place would have been bulldozed. She said back in the 70s it had been sitting for like so long that the inside of it was rotting. Birds and animals and things had taken residence inside of it. It's a pretty cool looking place if you ask me. Definitely a spot for a Daredevil cosplay. Like right there. You can see him. Daredevil hanging out right there. Going off on one of his other adventures. And it's on the National Register of Historic Places. There's the plaque. Walk on up. You know it's a cool place if it's on the register. Right there. 1900. Department of the Interior. What's up, adventurers? We are now, as you can see, I'm going to change of clothes here. This is day 2. The 2 museums I wanted to get to yesterday closed, and one of them today is still closed, but we're going to make the best of this. So today I am at the Augusta Canal uh, Interpretive Center and History Museum. We're going to take a look around here and see what's going on here and learn a little bit about Augusta history and the canal during the Augusta Industrial Revolution. So this is location 3. So I've done the Meriwether race riots obelisk, the Sacred Heart Museum, and now we're going to the Canal Visitor Center. Let's take a look around. So in 1845, the city built a canal to power the mills of the Industrial Revolution that would reinvent the South, and time again, Augusta has returned to the canal and its river to strengthen and renew itself. So there's three major mills. There's the Sibley Enterprise, and I'm forgetting the name of the third one, that made clothing and things like that during the Industrial Revolution. Now, I did another visit to the Augusta Museum where they talked a lot about this, but before its canal, crews of 6 men, mostly African Americans, navigated 60-foot-long Petersburg boats on the treacherous waters of the Savannah River. They would deliver all sorts of things like trade stuff, and the dangers never scared them off the Petersburg boat, though. They kept delivering supplies, and after 1850 until the 20th century, they used the Augusta Canal to transport their cargo right into the heart of the city. And here's one of the guys that would have done that. Brave men. And here's what their boats looked like during that time. And what did they haul, you ask? Well, it is the South. Bales of cotton was one big one. Flour, crescent flour, had to get put on those boats to get up and down the Savannah River to get delivered. Again, all that was around during the 1845 time was horsepower, and that was slow going. So the Petersburg boats were a bit faster. So before the canal, it was a monstrous, pretty city that it ain't place it used to was, but a great sight. It seems like it was rotten on both ends. So that's one of the slaves that had that to say. Chattel slavery was huge here. Here they are picking cotton. We talked a lot about this yesterday at the Meriwether Monument. So Henry Hofford Cumming was son of the Augusta's first mayor. He watched with concern as the city started going down. He based his idea of success on Lowell, Massachusetts, to build a network of canals and transform itself into one of the most popular manufacturing centers. So Augusta is one of the few cities left here in the South that still actually uses their canal for its intended purpose. I think they don't use it for hydropower. So the Savannah River, they needed to kind of harness the power of the Savannah River, so they did that. The city lay on fall line and cut canals and dams and things to use some of that water. And again, we are in the South, so cotton is king. This was actually an old elevator from when this was a textile mill. As you can see, they have the original elevator sign. This is how employees would get up and down from one place to the next. And the old elevator buttons are still here too. During the Industrial Revolution. So Henry Cummings' plan to turn this place into an industrial mecca really worked. Let's push the thing and see this.
The chair recognizes the Honorable Henry Cummings. Mr. Cummings. Gentlemen, it is with great respect for our traditions and the ways of agriculture that I stand before you. It is because of cotton that we here in Augusta enjoy a lifestyle of unsurpassed refinement. But it is also cotton that places us in a deep depression today. The South must diversify its economy or continue to face hard times. Look, my friends, at the ripples of the mighty Savannah. Think what we could do if we could harness our strength and channel it into manufacturing. Why, yes, what I propose, gentlemen, is the construction of a canal to draw industry to the banks of the Savannah. Think how much cheaper we could produce cloth if we could site the mill nearer to the farm. You are right, my friend. We are proud planters and merchants. But not long ago, the same was true of a town not far from Boston. Today, Lowell, Massachusetts is a vibrant place where thousands of men, women, and children wake each morning and cheerfully begin to weave miles of cloth. Certainly not, Mr. Dawson. That is why we must look to the most advanced example of manufacturing in the world. Why do we sit idle when our own water can
So
operate twice the number of mills,
Mr. Cumming continues to say that people need to start diversifying the way that they deliver the goods of cotton. As you know, chattel slavery was king here in 1845. They had to dig the canal by hand. Most of the white workers laid down their tools and got out of the heat, but the men, these African Americans, had to sit in the hot sun, and they had to continue digging to make that canal that I just told you about. And it was hard work. It wasn't fair either. Again, the black guys had to stay out in the heat and make this stuff. In 1845, they dug it, and this is what one of the piles of Georgia clay they dug up would look like. Now, it wasn't only African Americans and black people doing this. They also brought in men from China who helped build the Transcontinental Railroad, convict crews from local prisons, and Italian stonemasons joined to help make what would become the dams for making the canal bigger and better to transport things. They even built an aqueduct, which is still visitable. As a matter of fact, I've been there many times. And as you can see, there's the men delivering things on the longboats, pulled by a tow, which is now a jogging track that I take all the time for jogging. As you can see, this is what the little miniatures look like. So anyways, I hope you guys have been enjoying these museum things. All right, so here's another one. Charles Estes was the mayor in 1870, and he gave them one of the third terms during his third term. He hired former Erie Canal engineers to start building the canal and the towpath. It actually has a purpose. There it is. There's a city on the right. You got the canal at the top. It receives and settles the basin, the filters the basin, and Clearwater Basin. Some of these buttons don't work, and that's okay. It just shows you how everything works. So Hawks Gully, another trail. A lot of this is now running and walking trails. Mark the city's western limit on the canal, and all the water that entered through these head gates left the city and returned to the city of Hawks Gully, the river by the way of Hawks Gully. And as a result of the canal, all these industrial places start popping out. The machine works, mills, manufacturing, all this great stuff. Here's kind of a walk through where all the canal went. And as you can see, it goes from place to place to place here. It kind of takes you on all these different places. And this one, actually, this little exhibit, you can turn the wheel. The more you turn it, it moves the water wheel and starts lighting the textile mill. That, folks, is science at work right there. Very cool. Let's keep moving. So one thing I always notice when I go to these museums, I'm usually the only one in here, maybe one or two other people. All right, so textiles, folks. When I say textiles, that's right, I mean clothing. That cotton gets turned into clothes, and then we wear it. Not nowadays, though. Nowadays, we're making everything out of synthetics. Anyways, 1875, one of the big mills was built. And as they said in one of my favorite movies, Field of Dreams, build it and they will come. And come they did. Look at all these companies that are popping up everywhere. Here's another of these really cool things. You spin it. So let's see what it does. Yep. Tells you how water wheels and hydropower work. And they still use it for hydropower today. So it lights up when you push things on it. All right. So here we go. Now, I'm going to link it, but I actually did a story on one of these mills, the Sibley Mill, and it's haunted. They actually filmed a Mel Gibson movie there not too long ago, but it's actually haunted because a lady, one of the mill workers, like this beautiful young woman here, um, found out her husband was having an affair. They got into it, and he killed her there at the mill, and that mill is haunted as a result. But anyways, I'll link you for that. It was a cool Halloween story. These are weavers, and these are actual um, weaving machines that were here when this place was the mill. And it worked into cloth. Workers had to want to become weavers, but only a select group of them actually manned the looms. Working with looms were a special breed of person. You had to be determined, nimble hands, and yet, even if you had all these things, you had to be experienced and willing to be trained. This lady was ready for the job. Modern looms, of course, are nothing like these guys. 1920s, they had to use electricity to make them, made by Draper Corporation in Hoppendale, Massachusetts. Nowadays, of course, I'm sure this is all done by computers and AI and everything else, but these were the AI back in the day. So you come over here, and the other side of these machines, they just look really terrifying. And as you can see, they still have all the machinery that goes up into the ceilings here because this used to be one of those textile mills. Ooh, fun. Looms, a closer look. Let's do it. This machine appears to be out of order. I push the button. It's not working. So here's where you can actually take the process of cleaning the cotton yourself using slivers into weft yarn, into warp yarn, and then into woven soft cloth. In my opinion, cotton is the way to go. I can't stand synthetic fibers. Cotton is so soft and it holds up a lot better than polyester and other artificial materials. Well, folks, we can't talk about mills and the Industrial Revolution without talking about child labor. And this what started unions and labor laws. Kids had small hands, so they could fix the machinery, but they also were not being treated fairly. They were being forced to work long, hard hours, dropping out of school, putting them in very dangerous situations. And so this was pre-union, workers' unions, and these poor kids. Most of them they worked 11-hour shifts and 6 days a week inside hot buildings, these buildings. And what didn't take until the 30s when laws ended child labor and had to do 40-hour weeks for adults. Yeesh. Anyways, here's what the kids had to do. And here's one of the signs they pulled here out of these are actual vintage signs. Filling doffers. Here you go. It's one of the kids doing it. They want you to do a doffer challenge. But I don't have anyone to hold my camera, so I can't do it. But they basically see how fast you can load and unload these doffers. Push and let it go down. So, and here's some more things that they had to load and put fabric on and reload them again onto the machines. Here's one of the poor kids. Let's listen to him.
Watch out for them bells. You back into one of them while it's running, and you'll find yourself hanging upside down in no time. How old am I? Well, I turned 9 last August. Been working here for 3 months now. I'm a sleeper. The floor gets awful dirty when the witness spit. It's my job to clean it up. It ain't bad until you have to get under the machines while they're still running. It's real loud and the lint just chokes you up, but you get used to it. I don't make much, but the extra money helps my parents out a whole lot. Mama tells me to keep working hard. She says if I stick to it, I can get better jobs.
All right, so here's
I see you've had a tour of our facility.
the manager.
Take a look at this. Our mill turns out the finest cloth in the South. It's this quality that sets us apart. All things told, we can practically guarantee a 20% return on your investment. We've got the cotton nearby, cheap power from the canal, and an abundance of workers lined up at the company's gates. Yes, we do pay our workers a bit less than our bulletin counterparts, but that difference is more than made up for by the cheap cost of living here in our fair Georgia climate. Why, if we didn't treat our workers well, do you think they'd bring their children to work beside them?
All right, so there's your upper management right there. Don't ask this guy about no child labor laws. I'm sure he don't want to hear nothing on that. Let's continue. All right, so they offered advantage to investors, and again, here's a little picture of some of your 11-year-old kid mill workers. And so we're moving right along here, folks. Here's some of the other things that they made, some of the beautiful carpentry that was done here at the Augusta factory. Clark Mill Company, we got all these enterprise manufacturing. And here's some of the cotton that they made. Cotton bolts for clothing, anything else you need. Of course, here's a political cartoon. Giving the other fellow a chance. We got Southern Cotton King there. Textile Industries, and who's over there by himself? Well, that's the state of New England getting the raw end of the deal. Okay, so this is another really cool miniature. I love miniatures. If you check out my Aiken County Miniature Train Museum, this is the Electric Express. This shows you basically how hydropower works, water, electricity, in other words. 1990, they build it, powerhouse, the downtown starts glowing by 1892, and then home lights, Broad Street, Telfairs are lit up, and everything. In 1881, New York Power Company start using hydropower. Around 1900, he built a Lakeview Park to encourage traffic to his new streetcar line. Let's take a look. It lit up the train. I don't know if it did anything else. These guys got lit up. Let's try number 2 here. Just train's the only thing I see lighting up. I don't see any other buttons. But you get the point. It's basically, I think, designed to show you how everything receives hydropower. And here's another Southern gentleman by the name of Daniel Dyer. Trying to do his voice. I'm Daniel Dyer. I put Augusta on the fast track to modernization in 1890. Ambitious businessmen built an electric power plant on the canal to run a new electric steel car line. Following year, I announced that my plant would provide electric lighting for all the city streets and homes. Other companies Augusta to provide temporary street lighting and electricity for families. But I offer electric power at cheaper rates for Augustans. Work, home, and play. There's one of those street cars we were last weekend. I showed you guys what it's dug out. I hope you enjoyed my impersonation there. It's kind of weird being in the actual mill where all these kids and workers were at. All right, so next up we're going to actually take a look inside some of these not combines, inside some of these hydropower stations here. Let's take a look behind me. All right, so what you're looking at here is a big penstock. This is a hydropower process beginning, and down below me here, I'm going to show you something. This is called a penstock. It runs under the building, carrying the canal water that powers the hydroelectric system. And they're actually still using this now. the actual old mill here that's left over, they actually turned it into like luxury apartments that are all run by hydropower. Spin the turbine to see how it lights the mill. So it just shows you, it brings the water here in from the canal. Intake goes through, water in, gonna go all the way down. Where's number 2? Takes the current, and then it's gonna transform it into electricity right here using the generator. Right now it's generating 15, 14 kilowatts, 13 kilowatts. There it is, all lit up. And I'll show you this on the way out. You can actually see it. This is a artist rendering of the actual canal. Okay, so this is really cool. As I said, the canal is actually one of the few in America still being used for its intended purpose. This is a live kilowatt to show you how much the canal is actually using right now to power these high-rise apartments. And not high-rise, but they're luxury. There's sensors all throughout the canal. So, and whatever leftover electricity they have, they sell it to Georgia Power, which is our electric company here. So generator 1 is pulling 302.3 kilowatts, and that'll change. Generator 2 is pulling about 79 volts. Generator 1 is pulling about 0.578 volts. So generator 1 is not pulling as much. Let's go up here and they can actually show you, walk up these steps. So this thing here, you can actually explore hydropower electricity. Let's see if it works. Just what is inside. That's the big silver domed equipment. Find out here. All right, I don't think that machine's working. And again, some of these museums need a little bit of help. So we're going to walk up the steps here and take a look at one of the rooms that houses the generator. Oh yeah, there we go. So these are generators that have been working since the early 1900s that they're actually still using today to power these apartments that are here now in the old mill. These things are wild. You can hear them running too. It's just wild to me that they're still using the same technology to pull electricity in off the canal. All right, let's see what else this museum has here. So after a while, they started realizing the canal could be used for more than just pulling power and delivering goods. So around 1977, they started building parks and things up and down the canal and the lakes. It was actually fun. So here's Lake Olmsted. Bands would play on Sunday nights here at the veranda. Is that a veranda? No, that's the word is escaping me. Anyway, they're just calling it a bandstand. And then here you'll see that the dancing pavilion here at the locks. And of course, my favorite part is the canal trail itself. Actually, I walk this quite a bit to get exercise. I jog it. It takes if you do the whole thing from the end of the canal, it's like 13 miles. I've done about 8 or 9 of those miles walking myself. Here's another part built alongside the canal. And here's some people doing some boating and kayaking and canoeing. All right, here's some more of these things. Let's see if they work. This one shows like a bunch of people in parks and things using the canal. Let's try another one. That one doesn't work. All right, so we're going to continue on here, another part of the park. Excuse me, the museum. This is how workers lived. If you worked, I'm not putting on this bonnet, but you can if you want to.
that there's a strike. But we can't go on doing no more work, or they keep cutting our pay.
Here's actual photos of some of the workers here at the mill.
I come home each day too tired.
God, these kids look rough. They aged. So you had to live what I call a factory life. Everything that you owned was owned by the factory. And when you go out west, you'll learn the company stores. West Virginia, for example, had a lot of these company stores, and you get a company house. And that's what this shotgun shack we just walked through was. And if you were a mill worker, they provided you with a company store house. You stopped working there, guess what? You lose your house. Here's what it looked like back in the day. They were shotgun shacks. A lot of them are still there. And these are actually roads and things today. I drive past them every day on the way to work.
Stand there and let the company bring in scabs from out of town to get our job. How would you look your family in the eye come Sunday?
I'm just doing my job. Company's always treated me fair, just like it had you. Y'all the ones that run out when times got hard.
Times ain't that hard. The mill is still making a profit. They're cutting our salaries down to the bone.
I'm working 3 times as many machines as I was when I got hired and getting paid less. Now I can barely feed my children. It just ain't right.
Y'all starting to sound like Yankee agitators.
Don't blame the union for this. It wasn't the union that put us out of our houses, Kurt.
If you stay out, the boss will just replace you with workers. There's plenty of folks willing to do it.
So yeah, if you know your American history, behind me, that was just a little reading of unions. Unions came in 1902, and during that time, was it 1902? Did I strike that right? Yeah, major strikes started happening from 1886 to 1902, eventually building to unions. And when you had unions, you know what else you have? People getting laid off. Saw a lot of this in West Virginia when I did a lot of the excuse me, national parks there. Here's some more leftovers. This is actual an Avondale mill cart that they'd move things in the mill, and here's more new water, new life. They're still making textiles here. Golden years for the canal in the 1800s. Leftovers they found here along the canal, old wheels, all sorts of other things, and the Atlanta Gas and Light began to clean up in the canal's 3rd level, the old gas works, and these are some of the things they pulled. The same thing here, all the stuff they pulled from the canal. 2003. All right, so we're going to keep moving here. Here's more things of looms and all sorts of other devices to turn cotton into fabric here at all these different mills. There's a cotton picking pick counter right there, you cotton picker. Cotton picker. And here's some badges of employees that worked here. Nearly 4 decades later, OSHA got in here and ooh, they did some stuff. Let me tell you, OSHA was all about making sure this place was on the up and up. And then, of course, the Georgia Textile Manufacturers Safety Contest. Safety became in here because OSHA was all about safety. So here's some of the things they did to sign off on safety vouchers and working the shift. This museum is great. All right, so we're going to keep moving here. Of course, after the Industrial Revolution, the canals started being neglected, and by the 1960s, Augustans had turned their backs on the canal. Few factories were using it anymore. Trash was collecting. Sewers were dumping pollutants into the, I gotta love it, pollutants into the sections of the waterway, created a potential health hazard. Claiming the canal was more liable than an asset. The mayor at the time was actually going to fill in the canal's 2nd level. He proposed then to drain the whole thing and replace it with a highway. Luckily, that didn't happen. So we're going to keep moving here. And of course, nowadays, it's beautiful. It's a place for leisure. And as you can see, it's also got beautiful azaleas, biking, walking. They've tried their best to protect it. You kids better keep working, you hear me? I said, you kids better keep working, you hear me? Yes, sir, Mr. Smith. Yes, sir. I'll be working. Yes, sir. Thought I told you to shut your mouth, boy. So on this end of things here, they'll show you some of the ecology of the animals that come through here. We've got slider turtles, we've got wasps, hornets, snakes, possums, fox, alligators, deer. Here is another one of the really big turbines that they just left here. There it is, man. These turbines are huge. I guess they just left them here because it was too heavy and to do anything with it. So basically, I was able to do a little bit of this. They just want you to be able to hear. You can hear the turbine, and this is a hydraulic ram on the outside of the turbine. So neat. Cool part is, as you walk down this hallway here, you'll see that they left all of the original belts and things that were left over from the days of it being a textile mill. Here's some of the guys working at it. It's so random. So random. They got deep south cooking recipes here, all sorts of Duke's mayonnaise. Southern mayonnaise, folks. If you're not from the South, you'll know all about Duke mayonnaise. Ooh. How to speak Southern. Doug's doing Dimmadale. Doug's doing Dimmadales. Golden book here. Everything I need to know I learned from a little golden book. So I'm about to take you guys outside and show you the exterior before we wrap this up. So as you walk outside here of the old mill, I'm going to show you some of the other things I just discovered out here. They've got old bells, pieces of old turbines. Beautiful day today, by the way. Showing some of the old turbines here. I don't even imagine how much these things weigh. And one of the bells. But here is the actual mill itself. That's what I was just inside. Now, if you walk right here, the museum attendant was telling me that they offer tours on the Petersburg longboats that the black men used to carry goods up and down the canal in. I'll take you up these steps, and this will take us up to the canal. I'm not taking a boat ride today. I've done it before, but not today. All the way to the top. If you want to take a boat ride, this is where you meet. And here is the canal. And Cormorant just popped up out of the water. And he's off. So this is the canal itself. I was just telling you about. They were going to fill it in. That bridge down there is actually dedicated to a guy that died on the Titanic. Did a video on that too. Check it out. Let's walk down here and take a look at the boat that you get a tour in. And again, this is an active canal, meaning they still use it for hydropower. And here's some of the cleaning areas to keep everything nice and the turbine area clean. So we're going to keep walking here. Anyways, here's the full mill itself. I'll show you the neon sign that's left over also. What's wild to me is all these museums I'm going to, none of them ever have any business, which is kind of sad if you think about it. I knew about them because as a kid I would go and do tours of them as kids and things like that. And as I've gotten older here, I've come to appreciate making sure to go visit these places and patronize them because no one else does outside of school field trips. And most of them are, under $10 to visit. And you got to learn from history. I'm not a history teacher. I'm an English reading and writing teacher. So for me, personally, of course, I tell my students they need to educate themselves about the past because you're just going to be doomed to repeat it. And what we can learn from this textile mill is, first of all, not to treat your employees like crap. Don't hire kids. And give people a living wage. And don't buy houses that are owned by your job. If I recall, I think Amazon is trying to do this now. They're trying to sell people on houses near their fulfillment centers. And I'm telling you, we've done this before. Anyways, behind me, I'm about to show you the neon sign. So there's the neon sign that lights up at night. Graniteville Company Enterprise Division. And that's the old mill that they turned into luxury apartments and an interpretive museum to show you what it used to be like. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you've been enjoying my series. I am working very hard to get this YouTube channel off the ground. I'm trying to do collaborations with other more successful YouTubers. One of my favorite YouTubers that passed, Adam LeWoo, he was notorious for doing collabs with smaller YouTubers to help kind of boost them. But unfortunately, I sort of think that may have died with him. It's hard, few and far between to find a YouTuber to do that and reach. I've left some comments on their pages, but it's just really hard to get them to collab with smaller YouTubers. I get it. I mean, they're trying to grow their own brand, but it's hard. And I hope you guys are appreciating everything I've been putting out. I try and find free museums, but not all of them are free. I go live 5 days a week. I go live 3 times each one of those days. So I am live about 15 times a week between the hours of 7:30 and 8 a.m. And then again from about 11 to noon. And then again from 3 to 3:30. I try and get to you guys. I try to answer your questions. Right now I'm like just under 3,000 subscribers. I've been at this for about a year, and I am not going to stop anytime soon. Really would appreciate any and all support, like, subscribe, comment. Anyways, I'm adventuring with Chris, and I will catch you guys on the next adventure, because history is everywhere. Like that bridge behind me that Archibald Butt, who was on the Titanic, died, but he was a local. They built the bridge for him. One of the presidents was here to dedicate that bridge. I'll catch you guys on the next adventure. Keep on adventuring.